All right, hey, what's up, y'all? So I want to take a moment and review this past week and cover some useful learning points that we experienced as we went through our different events. And also talk about what we're working on now, what we have coming up, and some pro tips for you to make it a really good week. You know what I'm saying? So what did we have going on this week? The first thing that was really great, Kyle Douglas, he's one of the members of our online community, but someone that's been following us for a while. Kyle Douglas is in the military, he's in the Air Force, and he is living the real foodie life overseas and being a great example for others and soldiers and things like that. And so when he was in town, we had a chance to get together, we had a drink, we BS'd a little bit, and I got him on the podcast. So we recorded an awesome podcast from a perspective of a service member who is overseas, making it work in a room with just a microwave and a DFAC or a mess hall. You know, I thought that was really awesome. So we have a really good conversation coming up here soon. And then most of you know, we had our starting point handgun class on Friday, and it was amazing. And you know, we said it before, we believe in your right to learn how to protect yourself if that's important to you. We're not saying that everyone should have a handgun or a gun for protection, but if that's important to you, you definitely want to learn how to use it properly. And this was such an amazing class. Like, I did it last year. Since the class last year, I may have shot a few times. And let me tell you something, the instructor there, Brittany, everything that she puts out, it's from the heart. It's with an intention to do the right thing and help people. All right, so we're not just going out there just shooting stuff for the sake of shooting stuff. We're actually learning a lot about mindset and situational awareness. And then, of course, safety is a huge, huge piece of it. And every time I hold my handgun, my weapon, like, I realize how uncomfortable I am with it. And I want to be comfortable with it. If the situation ever presents itself that I need to use it, and I want the people around me that have protection to know how to use it as well. So it was just an amazing class. I can't say enough good things about it. If you'd like to learn on a private level or just check out her stuff and follow her, because she's always putting out classes, we'll provide some links for sure. But you can look for Point, P-O-I-N-T, Firearms, and that's the name of her company. And I'm talking top-notch, top-level instruction, and again, with an intention to actually do something useful. All right, so that was an amazing experience. We had about 15, 20 people there. It was awesome. And then yesterday, we had our second meeting in our flexible animal-based omnivore. And we've said this before. You know, we believe that the mindset of a veteran real foodie, someone that's been trying to make this work for a while, is, or one of the things that makes us successful is this mindset of always going without something, always experimenting. There should never be a time that you're not in some kind of a personal experiment, so that you can learn what works for you and how you respond to different things. When you pull stuff out, your body gets desensitized to it, right? And then when you bring that, whatever it is, in, your body has a chance to give you some feedback on it. So the experiment that we're doing with this flexible animal-based omnivore, it's our version of a carnivore experiment, but it's our way. It's very flexible, very manageable in a modern lifestyle, and we think it's awesome. Like, it's so great. We had our second meeting this weekend, and just to cover a few of the key concepts that we covered in there. Hormetic or hormesis, we might have heard this before. Hormetic stressors are things that theoretically in small doses are a benefit to your body, a beneficial stressor, because your body adapts to it and gets stronger. So some great examples of hormetic stressors would be environmental stressors like hot and cold. You know, we hear a lot of people doing cold plunges and things like that. I think being out in the heat is actually a hormetic stressor. It helps your adaptation response to climate change. Exercise, a really well-known hormetic stressor, because exercise itself is not beneficial. Exercise breaks you down, but it's your healing and adaptation response to the exercise that's really beneficial. Fasting is hormetic, because fasting in small punctuated amounts have some health benefits. Fasting all the time, you starve and die, right? So there's a lot of environmental stressors that are hormetic and provide a beneficial response. Sun exposure is hormetic, right? We don't want to be in the sun all the time and burn, but a little bit of punctuated sun exposure does a lot of good for our circadian rhythms, and helps us produce vitamin D and some immune boosting benefits. So again, there's a lot of environmental stressors that are beneficial, But then there's chemical or molecular stressors that the body doesn't want and it doesn't respond well to. Things like smoking and alcohol, although some of these things we may choose to do as an indulgence, right? Coffee and caffeine, it's a mild hormetic stressor, or a mild stressor that's not hormetic, unfortunately. And then processed food, other toxins and pollution and things like that. So the reason we covered this in this talk is there's a lot of thinking around the benefits of plants being because of the stress they put on the body through polyphenols and antioxidant activity. And what we are learning and understanding from really prevalent thought leaders is that maybe we don't want those chemical molecular stressors. This is the hypothesis, right? Things like polyphenols. There's no receptor for a polyphenol inside the human body. There is no nutrient-based use for a polyphenol inside the body. It is a toxin. And there's a lot of different derivatives of it, So anyway, that was what we talked about. Like, environmental stressors, great. Adaptation to those things, great. Chemical, molecular stressors might not be so good. What else did we talk about in the meeting that I thought was really good? So we just mentioned antioxidants, right? There's a big misconception around antioxidants being something that you consume. I mean, there's a couple, vitamin C and vitamin E are considered antioxidants, but in general, when we consume something that is called an antioxidant, what it actually does is it induces antioxidant activity by the body. So when I consume something that's toxic, I probably secrete some glutathione, which is the body's master antioxidant, and that neutralizes free radicals. But the thing that I'm consuming might not be in and of itself an antioxidant. It's just creating some of that activity inside the body. And then the question is that actually a really good thing? If I consume something that's toxic and I produce, planes always seem to go overhead when I'm trying to shoot out here. So if I consume something that's toxic and I create and produce and use some glutathione to neutralize that, the glutathione activity seems higher, which seems like a beneficial thing, but it might not actually be a beneficial thing because I'm depleting my glutathione reserves. So just some really interesting talk around that. By the way, had a great group, had a great discussion with it. And then we also talked about treating symptoms versus root cause. I think a lot of us run around trying to take and eat things that we're trying to fix a problem, like taking turmeric and curcumin to help with anti-inflammation. Whereas we really need to ask the question, like, what's causing the inflammation? What can we do to not have the inflammation in the first place? I think that's a really, really good mindset to have. We also talked about studies, the difference between epidemiological and observational studies versus clinical trials or controlled studies, and how the majority of the information that we see coming out in mainstream news is based on observational or epidemiology. All right, and there's so many different examples that we covered. One of a really classic one that I've used for years is if I drove around so epidemiological means looking at data. That's it. You're not really controlling anything. If I drive around and I see a bunch of houses on fire and I notice the fire department's at every house, I wouldn't make the mistake of saying, well, I see the fire department at every fire, therefore the fire department must have started the fire. Right? But that's what we do with a lot of research, which is really epidemiology or observational, is we make these correlations that really might not equate to causation. This is what's happened with saturated fat and meat over the past 50, 60 years. There's correlation with heart disease and some other issues, but then when you really dig into it, it's observational in nature. The definition of meat is things like lasagna and Hot Pockets and a bunch of BS that real foodies wouldn't ever touch. And so you just have to understand that when you're looking at a lot of this research that comes out and learn how to really look for really useful, solid information. So that was a really good topic we talked about. Talked about healthy user bias. So a lot of times you look at an observational study or epidemiology and you see these populations doing really well and you see these correlations, with things that they do. And sometimes it's not that thing that you're looking at that they're doing that's healthy. It's all these other things that they're doing that are healthy, because usually people that are health conscious are also not smoking, they're not drinking, they're exercising, they're trying to do a lot of great things for their health. And then maybe this one thing that we're looking at, say this person, let's just take, for instance, we see through epidemiology that everyone that does a kale smoothie every day is healthier, right, than the rest of the population. Well, it might not be the kale smoothie. It might be that people that drink kale smoothies also do yoga, they also meditate, they also don't drink as much, they also smoke less. So it's really just understanding that when I'm looking at observational data, epidemiology, it might not be telling me what it seems to be, especially when the news is reporting it like that, all right? There's also an unhealthy user bias. People that are relatively unhealthy don't care about advice, so we see that that's how meat gets demonized a lot, is that people that eat meat, because we've heard meat is so bad for us for so long, a lot of people that eat meat don't care about other things about their health. And so sometimes there's that confounding variable that unhealthy people are eating more meat because they think that meat's also unhealthy and they don't care about that. I hope that makes sense. I was trying to explain it in class and I felt like we got our points across, but it was really challenging. So we finished that meeting. So a bunch of great little concepts. Again, we aren't married to these concepts. We're trying to provide an argument to do this experiment. And then at the end of the month, we're going to bounce out of this and do some other experiment. At the end of the meeting, we talked about our favorite superfood, our second favorite superfood. Our first favorite superfood is bone stock. Our second favorite superfood is bone marrow. Now, bone marrow is the stuff inside of bones, which is so useful because that's what the body uses to buffer acidity, alkalinity. It stores a lot of its essential fatty acids there. And that bone marrow has osteoblasts, which helps to form new bone cells. It has fibroblasts, which helps to form new connective tissue. And it has osteoclasts, which help to reabsorb bone and then remodel it. And so bone marrow is a powerhouse. Like it's a superfood that I try to consume most days. So I did a little demo on how to make that. I'll probably be sharing a video on that here soon. And so a mini pro tip is to get some bone marrow in, however you can find it. And I'm going to go over a video on how to do it. So now, that's what happened over the past week. Let's talk about some pro tips to make this week amazing. First of all, make sure that you use today, Sunday, to plan your meals. All right, we love using this leftover method where we plan every other night meals and then we have leftovers every other night after that, right? And at the end of the week, we have what we call a leftover smorgasbord. It's awesome. We haven't planned ours yet today, but we will. And we have a little video on it where we clipped it out of a talk that we did at UHC. We also have a really good YouTube channel and I think an Instagram channel on brutally simple cooking recipes, which are meant to be brutally simple, right? Also, make sure that you plan some kind of fitness for the week if you're not already doing that. A lot of us I know are fitness fanatics and we have a routine that we're pretty committed to. I mean, I'd highly recommend about a minimum of 3 days of something relatively intenser than what you normally do, or something intention-based. I'd love to invite you up here to the CrossFit Combine, get in touch with my buddy Colby Phillips. He can do a little interview with you and get you all excited about joining us. But in general, just committing, what are you going to do for the week, fitness-wise? If you're not doing anything right now, we recommend doing a walk in the morning and a walk in the evening. And by the way, pro tip, you can make that a solitary walk. Now remember, we've talked about this before. Solitary walk is both a combination of good for you fitness-wise and good for you mindfulness-wise, because on a solitary walk, you're going to walk, and it's going to be time with your own mind. You're not talking to anyone else. You're not listening to music. You're not listening to books or podcasts. Your smartphone is either put away in airplane mode, or you can leave it behind, but I know there's a safety concern there, so maybe just put it in your pocket or in your backpack with an intention not to mess with it the whole time. It's so freeing, it's so liberating, and on these solitary walks, you can allow creative, positive thinking about things you want to think about. You can use it just to be present and practice and listen and just be with whatever's happening. Or you can just, out of curiosity and fascination, see what kind of thoughts pop up. It's great. But if you commit to a solitary walk morning and evening, I try to do one morning, usually about 20, 30 minutes. I do a midday walk and then try to find time to do one in the evening. It's kind of hot right now. But if you can commit to 1 or 2 of those a day, it's good for your fitness health and it's also good for your mental health and mindfulness health, all right? And on those walks, by the way, if you notice any negative thinking, anything tight, anything drama-based, then you just move on to something more positive, all right? What are you going to do for mindfulness this week? If you're not a dedicated meditator, then what we recommend most of our people do is you sit with a timer for 3 minutes in silence outside with your eyes open, just looking around and listening, creating some natural space, creating some natural presence. And if you notice yourself talking to yourself or something like that, you just basically come back and listen again. I got some little bugs going on out here. I got some birds. I got some distant traffic. I can sit here with a timer for 3 minutes and just listen and create some space. And it's a beautiful thing. And when you do that, you are cultivating a very powerful skill. The skill that you're cultivating is the skill to notice your thinking, because most of us are thinking all the time and don't realize it. Notice the thinking, and also you're cultivating the skill to come back to the present moment. And what happens is your life becomes more present. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It just happens automatically. And then I think finally I want to end with my final pro tip is to prioritize sleep. All right, get to bed on time and get up early. That's all you got to do. Really, to be healthful and feel amazing, eat real food, get sweaty most days, spend a little time in quiet, get to bed on time and get up early. That's the secret right there, right? So, and if you are not part of our online community, let me tell you something, it is freaking amazing. Our big purpose there as a community is to bring together people who for most of their lives have been lost and confused when it comes to how to be healthy, and now they're seeking clarity and confidence. So that we can learn some health concepts together and facilitate experiments with each other and support each other as we go through that process, because we all are trying to be as happy and healthy as possible and live the most amazing life possible, and that's what we're doing in there. We have monthly themes. So this month we're in flexible animal-based omnivore. Next month we're talking about grounding and hiking and camping and outdoors. And the next month we're going to flip the script and talk about how to be a smart vegan. So that's going to be really awesome. Within those monthly themes, we always have a weekly seminar where a lot of great content comes from. And if you're in that community, we have these daily questions and polls, which really keep people in conversation and engaged and stuff like that. So I think that's about all I got. I hope this is useful. If you got any feedback, let me know. Remember, you are only one decision away from being a better version of yourself. You're one meal away from being right back on it. You're one fasting session away from feeling tight and lean and mean. You're one workout away from being right back at your workouts. You're only one good night's sleep away from feeling amazing. If you don't know how good sleep feels, you need to try it. And you're only one meditation session away from being completely centered. All right? So you're only one decision away. No matter where you are right now, make a decision to do something different and better, and you will start to see things move in a good direction. All right? Y'all make it a great week. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or snide remarks. Send them my way.